Welcome to Leadership and People. This is a series that pulls back the curtain on leadership by interviewing CEOs, senior executives, and entrepreneurs who have had large exits. We ask these experts about how they built trusted networks to rapidly grow their companies and what advice they wish they knew if they could do it all again. Today on the show, we've got Mary Crafts Homeworth.
Comes more just actually from life and living and joy and sharing joy and lifting others than actually from food. Food all these years has been my medium. And I've used that to bring people together, to bring them fun, to bring them connectiveness, to feed them, to give them adventure.
Thanks for making time.
Oh, my pleasure. I was excited to be here.
So for people who don't know what you do, tell us all about it.
Well, I do a lot of things, but for a career for the last 35 years, I've been the CEO and president, owner, founder, and creative person behind Culinary Crafts, Catering, and special events.
So I see a lot of awards out here about that.
Yeah, a couple.
Can you talk about this?
Yeah, when I retire and I take those awards home, they're going to have to start over. It's awards are one of those things, I think, when you start out, you don't go for that. That's not why you're in existence. But if you do something long enough and you decide that you're going to be an expert at it, eventually the community, your state, and the world actually start to take notice. You know, this person's actually pretty good at this. And you win one and then another and another. And, probably the ones that are the most notable out there in that case are the 16 gold medals that hang there for Best of State and 3 statues for Best of All Hospitality. But there's a lot of awards in there that signify other things. Like in 2005, when I was awarded one of Utah's 30 Women to Watch, I no more thought that I was a woman to watch than fly to the moon. I was surprised that I got that. But somebody thought I was that. And you kind of lived then towards that point. Twice I received Outstanding Businesswoman of the Year from the Chamber. And I thought, wow, really? Me? But back when I first started, there weren't a lot of women in business. And so if you wanted a woman, it was, I was a better choice because there weren't a lot of us to choose from. Now it'd be much tougher to win that award, I'm sure. Another one of my favorites is one that I won, Ethics in Business. And I loved that one because it's what I wanted to focus on really in my entire career based on integrity. And to be recognized for that was super fun. And then my all-time favorite at age 60 to receive one of Utah's 10 coolest entrepreneurs. I loved that. I had a photo shoot done with me in my black leather Harleys and a chef knife and my cowboy hat. And, dang, I was cool.
So I think it's pretty obvious that you enjoy what you do.
I do.
Even the couple events we've been to, like you're like, it seems like you're in your element when you're in a crowd. Is that
I am in my element when I'm in a crowd, and that passion that you feel from me comes more just actually from life and living and joy and sharing joy and lifting others than actually from food. Food all these years has been my medium, and I've used that to bring people together, to bring them fun, to bring them connectiveness, to feed them, to give them adventure, all sorts of different things I've done with food. But it all comes back to something else, that you are giving people joy, that in a year from now, they may not remember what they ate, but they're going to remember how they felt. And that's always in the forefront of my mind.
Yeah. So for people who hear catering business and they're thinking of like their friend's mom and like a little operation, can you give people who are not seeing this a little bit more vision of the scope here?
Sure. Well, that's exactly how I started in our little condo kitchen, baking breads and cookies and pulling my 2 little baby boys around in a wagon, door to door, selling cookies and breads and whatever I could. Then I went to doing birthday parties for children, sewed my own clown costume and the big rainbow wig and went and did the games and the whole 9 yards. Anything that was necessary. I was willing to do anything within my realm of integrity. It didn't matter how humbling it was. If I knew that I could put food in my children's mouth, that for me was the bottom motivation for me. That necessity is the mother of invention. Yeah. I didn't know how to be a caterer. I graduated in social work, and I had been a social worker. But that for me meant putting my children in daycare if I went back to that field. And I knew I was going to be the chief bread earner. And so, well, what could I do? I sold Avon for a while. They took my kids in a stroller. I taught piano lessons and voice lessons, and that wasn't bringing in much money. I thought, well, maybe I can cater. Who knows, And I did like to cook, and I was a good cook, but not what I do here. Those things were learned from a different kind of school called the School of Hard Knocks. And what I've realized is now that I'm at the end of my career, if I can share some of this information, some of the insights into business, leadership, building teams, being financially stable with people who are on that, lower end of the spectrum and trying to get to the top, that for me would be my legacy, to reach down and give back all that's been given me. Now we started from those humble beginnings. We are 16 times best of state. We were the International Caterer of the Year. We are the largest catering company in the state of Utah, and certainly the most awarded one. And we have a reputation, and that reputation certainly focuses on good food, without a doubt. But it also focuses on trust. People know who they use us, that they trust us to provide what we say. And I tell my team every day, my sales team, we're not selling food here. We're selling trust. They can get food anywhere, okay? But it's trust. Trust that we're going to show up. Trust that we're going to present fabulous food. Trust that if something does go wrong, I'm willing to be accountable for it and stand up to the plate and make it right. And that's what I'm selling. So that driving idea of being trustworthy, of having integrity, permeates this company. And I say to my staff, please, don't steal from me. Don't sell out your integrity for what I would gladly just give you if I was asked. And I've had these we have about 200 staff. We have 55 full-time plus 200 part-time in the best homes in the state. And I never think twice about, are they in there stealing from somebody? Do I have to watch them? Should I have cameras? They have my back because I have theirs.
Yeah. I will say this is like kind of the ultimate startup story from a literal red wagon.
I had $150. That was it. That's all I had to start this company.
Yeah. From a red wagon to multi-million-dollar business with all these stuff. It's a pretty good startup.
It's been fun.
Launch.
It's been an adventure.
Yeah. Well, tell me this. Sure, you've learned a million lessons. What is something you would have you wish you could go back and tell an earlier version of yourself?
Okay. Think just a little more before you leap. I tend to be very much a person of intuition. I go on my gut feeling a lot. And over the course of the years, most of the time that's played pretty well for me, but not always. And I could have avoided that by simply doing some of the things that I know are right. When somebody comes in the front door and they have a resume for me and I fall in love with them, I'm like, oh, they would be so perfect here. So what? I don't call the references and the resume and find out. I just hire them on. And then come to find out, nope, I really should have called. And they were a better actor than I thought they were. So there are some things that you do in business that really need to be done. That's a piece I would go back and do. I tried to carry too much of this on my own shoulders without trusting my team enough in the early years. I felt I had to do all the take lists, all the cooking, serve every single event, clean up, design every menu, really, it was so overwhelming. I learned this lesson during the Olympics. 2002, we set up 17 events a day. And I had it in my brain that I was going to go to one, get that set up and ready, and then just leave them to serve it. And I'd go to another one and go to the next one, go to the next one. And I had them all timed out, so I was going to be able to get to every one and make sure they had the merry touch. And on the first day, by the time I got to number 3, it was over. And I said, well, what happened here? What did you do without me? And we served it, duh. And I'm like, without me? It was a huge wake-up call that if I had trained them and trusted them, they would have been fine. In fact, they were fine. And it allowed me to begin to grow this company in a different, kind of mega sort of fashion.
System way instead of personality.
And that's the piece that my two sons have brought to the company. I sold 49% of this to them, now nearly 5 years ago, because in August they get the last 51. And the piece they brought was that everything did not have to be held in Mary's head. There are things called Google Docs, Excel spreadsheets. There's a profit and loss statement. I mean, there are all these things that always have just been in my head, but by putting systems in place and by writing an SOP for every single procedure here and putting that in a document, that I had not realized the value of that. I wish I had early on. I could have been doing this all along. Now they've taken these 5 years and done that, and it's amazing. I mean, somebody asks, well, how do we take care of the coffee maker? There's an SOP on that. You know what I mean? How do we handle the call that comes into the front desk? There's an SOP on that. How long do we have to turn around a proposal? There's an SOP on that. Crazy stuff like that, huh? And I didn't have to hold it all in my brain. And what that meant was I got to take a few trips now and then. I didn't have to be here 24/7. So it was great. I wish I'd known that earlier on.
Yeah. It is interesting how I think it's not as intuitive to go back and simplify and write it all down. And yet you see those businesses that are enormous because they can be duplicated, because they don't need Superman or Superwoman to come do it all, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that was a huge wake-up call. I would advise anyone, no matter how small their business, to begin writing down those processes, because eventually there's going to be 2 of you. And eventually there's going to be 8, and then 100, and then 1,000. Right now I'm, managing close to 300 employees. I couldn't do that on the old way. Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a second. So thinking about these folks where it's become more of a system, what are some of the leadership principles that you feel like have been the most valuable in, getting people to the point where you can have faith that you don't need to watch them like a hawk?
Okay. 2 books that I've loved. One is Good to Great. And that's kind of an old favorite. It's been out for a long time now, but a lot of people still love it. And there are a couple things in there. I didn't agree with everything, but there are a couple things. Just that idea of getting the right people on the bus. And when you meet someone and find someone that you know is a fit for the culture of your company, you'll find this right spot for them. And once they get on the bus, don't be afraid to change seats. I'm like, for example, I had this baker, and she was amazing. She became my executive baker, and she could do wedding cakes, and she could formulate anything from scratch just by me giving her an idea. Hi, I want to do this margarine. I want blah, blah, blah. And she'd be like, okay, I got that. After working in the bakery 5 years, she came to me and said, Mary, I want to be a wedding planner. I went, I'm sorry. No, you're not allowed. You must stay in the bakery. You must always be in the bakery because that's where I've put you. And she said, okay. And then about 6 months went by and she came and she said, Mary, I really feel like this is what I want to do. Can I have a shot at it? I said, I can tell it's a passion for you and you really want to do this. So I'm going to trust you enough to let you out of that seat and into a new one. And she has become our number 1 wedding planner. She's now planning the weddings that I'm leaving behind. When I step out, they belong to her. And if I had tried to keep her in that spot on the bus, we'd been missing out on one of our best employees. So for me, that's been really allowing people to shine within their own talents and not where I think they need to be. And if you want to be someplace else, find another job. That's not where I operate from anymore. I walked back the other day and I saw one of our dishwashers cutting and chopping I'm like, whoa, wait, what are we doing here? And he said, well, we found out he actually has gone to culinary school. And I go, what? They go, yeah, and we need some extra hands. And now he's on the line, one of our chefs. And so I was just that willingness to let that go. The second piece comes from the book, The Advantage, that
Is that Patrick Lencioni?
Yeah, that's the one. And where he really talks about the culture And no matter what else I do here, no matter how many SOPs I write, no matter how much business I sell, no matter how many trainings I create for the staff, whatever it is, the most important thing is the team. I must always keep that in mind. Sometimes I've kept people on board too long who were poisonous to the team because I either didn't have the courage to let them go, or I felt sorry for them, or whatever the reason was, and I watched them poison the team. And I've learned that lesson now. I don't wait so long. I do work with people, try and move them out of that space, but when I see that they are stuck there, move them on, because the most important thing I'm protecting always is this culture and this team. We had a training meeting just this week on building confidence. Confidence as you lead an event, as you pass the hors d'oeuvres, whatever it is that you do it in confidence, and how you feel about working here at Culinary Crafts and different things. I did some role playing, and it was a really fun training. But afterwards, I awarded 2 awards to people who I saw had come the farthest. And I talked about one who was just tell me what to do and I'll do it person, to now managing. And another person who the first time she worked had to go home because the work was too hard on her back. Now she's managing our warehouse. And to see the distance that those 2 people had come, and to have them give their testimonies as how that happened and what that was about. And out of the blue, then I called on Rachel. And I said, Rachel, you were with us last week when we received the Best of State statue for the best of all the hospitality companies in Utah. And you went up on stage with us. I want you to share how you felt. And as she started to cry, she said, I was so proud to be up there, to be part of this team, to be part of something that was the best, that had been built from the ground up, that sweat and equity had gone in it. And as she talked, I realized that that was a piece of the confidence, knowing that it's not just working for the team, it's working that the team is part of somebody who's committed to the best. So in leadership, great companies don't flow from the bottom up. It will start with great employees, and then the CEO becomes great. Greatness flows from the top down. And when the CEO and the executives and the management are clear about their vision, their principles, what they're going to live by, and what they're about, the rest of the team gets it, and they come on board. And you protect that no matter what. If someone comes on board who doesn't want to live in abundance, then I can teach them about it. I can show them about it. I can give them examples of how it works. And if they're still living in scarcity, then they can't be here.
You know, we live in a culture that likes to be so nice. There's such a, everybody gets a trophy and whatever. But talk about making those hard decisions. So many of us that run organizations, we do the exact opposite. We we hire quickly and then we take forever to let go.
Fire.
So
yeah.
Tell me about this, this idea of what it is time to move on, how you approach that, and especially for advice for the rest of us who either we don't like conflict like me.
Nobody likes
or
it. Okay.
You're just, I lie to myself about no, it could work itself out.
They're going to get better. The eternal optimist.
Yeah.
It is a true principle, this idea that what we call the law of the harvest. In every culture in the world, this principle exists, whether it's known as the golden rule, karma, what goes around comes around, you reap what you sow, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, playing win-win, the law of abundance. It's all the same principle. And so when people play out of abundance, they play out of win-win. And when you have someone on your team who is not in alignment, then you're playing win-lose. And sometimes lose-lose. So by bringing them in, and this will not be the first time they've heard this thing on the law of the harvest or abundance. They'll have heard it a million times. But so they'll know what I'm talking about. And I will tell them, this is not working for us. And because of the law of the harvest, I know it's not working for you if you were to really look inside. The best thing I can do for you is to turn you loose so that you have an opportunity to find a place where you can play win-win and give your all and put it in there. And maybe you learn a lesson from being here about what you can do differently. But continuing this path doesn't serve either one of us. It doesn't serve me, and I'm not serving you. And out of the love for our culture, for me, and for you, we need to end this so you can go on and truly be who it is that you're meant to be. I've said that speech over and over again. And people don't get it. You know, they're like, they start in with the excuses and that kind of, some people do get it. And then they're like, okay, great, I'll put my, and some people leave with the, well, I got the hell on you, you know, 4-letter words. But some people leave understanding and a light bulb comes on. And I know that in the next position, it will be different for them. But the one thing I do promise everyone before they walk out that door, even if you don't understand it today, I promise you the day will come when you will. And you will look back and you will say, thanks, Mary, for having the courage to teach me this lesson. There you go.
I think that's a great place to stop for part 1 of the episode here.
Okay.
Everybody make sure to tune in for part 2. We're going to get more wisdom from Mary.
Hi, my name is Logan Wilkes and I'm the CEO of Corporate Alliance. A few years ago, I moved to San Diego to build a new market for us there. The biggest deterrent I had to success was I didn't know a soul. I often thought to myself, if I just had a thriving network or influence, this would go 100 times faster. To be honest with you, I had never felt so alone in my life because A, I didn't have an influence, and B, I didn't know anyone that was going through the same thing that I was. If you have ever felt like this and you are looking to grow your influence, join us at one of our upcoming events. You can check us out at corporatealliance.net and request an invite to one of our upcoming experiences.